All right, what is up, everybody? Yes, I got a haircut. Yes, I went to Lone Star Open, and yes, I made a pretty big mistake that cost me the podium. Well, really like third place, so just barely the podium, but it still cost me the podium. We'll get to that though. That was in my very last game. It's crazy. We'll talk about that later. But first, let's talk about Lone Star Open itself. It was pretty awesome. Jesse and Kevin from the Truth and Reconciliation podcast hosted it. And man, what a great tournament. Probably one of my favorite tournaments I've ever been to. By the end of it, we had 16 players duking it out. There was prizes, really good prize support, lots of cool like knickknacks and stuff like that for actually just joining magnets and dice and all that cool stuff. They ran it beautifully, and yes, we were actually put on the leaderboards on Mantic's official Halo Flashpoint app. Your boy is sitting, well, maybe we'll get to that a little bit later. Well, already know that I almost got third place. So yeah, technically on the app, I'm third place in the United States as of today, but I did not get third place in the tournament, which is kind of crazy. So some different way that they ranked that. But we didn't just do the tournament. We actually hung out with Jesse and Kevin the Saturday before the tournament. Me, a gentleman named Kyle, a gentleman named Bradley in the Truth and Reconciliation community. It was really good times. Fun was definitely had for sure. We even got to test out a game type that's been brewing in my brain for quite some time. They contributed a lot to it and made it even better. So I'm really excited to show you that. I'm sure I'm showing you a teaser right here of it. But other than that, all that fun stuff, there was definitely the tournament. But speaking of tournaments, I hope to see any of you Michiganders at the Michigan GT in Lansing, Michigan, I believe in September. Also, my local game store, Games for Life, is doing a couple tournaments, one on the 8th and one on the 20th, I think, for a charity, which is like a Master Chief Challenge, but with Aatrox too. So that's going to be really fun. But let's stop talking about those future tournaments and let's start talking about the current tournament. It's been about a week. I say current, it's been about a week and a day, maybe a week and a couple days since I've done it, but had a lot to do at home. So I got home from Gen Con, worked, and then went straight to Lone Star Open, no days off or anything. Came back Sunday, well, technically Monday morning at like 3 a.m. Was exhausted the whole week, so I caught up on responsibilities and slept a whole lot. Now it's the next week, and I'm ready to talk about Lone Star Open. The first matchup I had was with a gentleman named Samuel. He was also playing Spartans, and the game type was Slayer. So these are going to be pretty basic summarizations of each game. Samuel, I was lucky enough to be paired with someone who was actually fresh and new to the game. I say lucky, but that's a joke. But I was lucky to be able to experience someone's first, I think, tournament in general. He had about 4 games under his belt at that time, and we had a pretty good match. But he put up a pretty good fight, and I'm thinking a future video that I want to do is, especially for people who haven't gone to a tournament, what's it like to go to a Halo Flashpoint tournament? Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that this is my list. It's the same one that I took to Gen Con. So yeah, it was a pretty good match back and forth, a really nice Slayer game, and I did end up taking the win in the end, but Samuel put up a really good fight for being so new to the game, and it seemed to me like he had a lot of fun. He did later win at least one game, so he has one win under his belt, so good for him. But on to the next game. There's 5 games total, so get your popcorn. The next game was Oddball, and I got the privilege again to face one of my friends, Kyle, who I also played against at Adepticon and Gen Con. Kyle beat me the first time at Adepticon. We tied at Gen Con, and then we had another rematch, Oddball rematch, with his Aatrox and his Brutes. This time I ended up pulling out the win, but it really came down to just a couple of moves. I got first turn, my JFO played the meta, grabbed that Oddball, took it back to my zone. I was able to score some early points. There was one really intense moment where he had his Aatrox tying up basically 2 of my Spartans, and he had 2 Brutes ready to pick up the Oddball the next turn. And then my CQB comes back. I had 2 shoot dice, and I shot him twice in a row. So first time I shot both the Brutes that were in the same cube. They scattered back into the same cube. I'm pretty sure. I'll have photos. They scattered back into the same cube, and then I shot him again with the fuel rod with my CQB, and Just killed both of those brutes, which left me wide open to grab that oddball and take home the victory. Kyle was a really good sport. There was a moment where I reminded him that he could use his Spartan, command die, or Spartan extra activation die to steal first turn to try to grab that oddball. But since he forgot, he was a really good sport and said, no, I can figure out another way to try to win this, which I ended up honoring him later in the tournament too by doing the exact same thing and not taking back a mistake, because you learn from mistakes. Then for the third match, I went up against my other travel companion other than Kyle, and his name was Bradley, and he brought a 2 Spartan list, Master Chief, and a Gungnir with a Splazer. Insane. I thought for sure this is the match that I could win. He was 2-0 at that point. I was 2-0 at that point. It was strongholds. He only had 2 units. I was assured this victory, right? But in the beginning, for some reason, I just couldn't lock down some points. He got an early lead of 3 points by hiding his Master Chief in the corner. And then we just had this fierce battle in between the middle, the 4 points in the middle, just going back and forth, killing each other, stealing it. I was able to catch up. We were neck and neck the whole time. The biggest strategy I found was to tie up his Master Chief with my CQB, because if he left, I would actually be able to, have a pretty good chance, left combat, I would have a really good chance of knocking him back into the wall since he was in the corner and just keeping him in combat so he couldn't move and go into the middle. But yes, it was just basically a back and forth between his Gungnir spawning, lasering me from the middle, my JFO spawning, knocking him off the middle, and then grapple shotting onto the center point. And basically what it came down to was the very last turn, I did not roll an extra movement die, so I couldn't use that extra movement to get my JFO on to the point, and he ended up winning the game by 1 point. So that was my first loss of the tournament. Spoiler alert, this two Spartan list actually ended up winning the whole tournament. I'm sure that the Truth and Reconciliation podcast is going to have him on to talk about it, so I'll make sure to link that below, at least their Spotify below, so you can get that update when they do upload that, podcast. Then the next game, which was the 4th game, ended up being against a gentleman named Joshua, who was a pretty fierce competitor, who had sweet, just awesome looking Spartans, really very Borderlands cell shading. We played on a really cool map with these hologram kind of plastic pieces, multi-level, which is very interesting. I really want to make a multi-level map. But we played CTF. I was able to get a pretty early flag capture with the JFO and the quantum translocator. And I kind of tied him up a little bit. He ended up grabbing my flag. I was able to stop him for a while. But he eventually got so close that I was like, you know what, I need to stop going for that flag. I don't really play to draw. I even said that. I want to play to win. So I ignored that. I went to grab his other flag, and I just couldn't do it. He just denied me so many times from grabbing his flag. I was able to stop him as well. And we actually ended up drawing that game. It was my first draw of the tournament, and I was okay with that. Capture the Flag is one of those games that you draw fairly frequently in. They made some changes to it, and you hold it like a weapon now, so you can't really drop it. So it makes it a little bit faster, but it's just one of those games. It's like a Halo classic, but in Flashpoint, it just takes a lot longer to score. Either way, that was a really, really exciting game, a really tense game as well. He ended up taking 2nd place in the tournament. And my last game was a King of the Hill match with Joe from the YouTube channel X and One Cast. They do the Orbital Drop podcast for Halo Flashpoint. I got to verse him, which was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun. And it was King of the Hill. King of the Hill is crazy, just this hill that randomly spawns at different corners of the map, including the center. It was a super fun match, and with that CQB, it was really fun to just knock him out. Unfortunately, he made a couple of mistakes in the beginning I wouldn't say a couple of mistakes. He didn't really make mistakes. I just took an advantage to pin some of his models with my Gungnir grenade launcher, and that kind of set him back a little bit throughout the entire game. So he didn't, I don't know, I can't even say that. It was fairly even overall. We were kind of neck and neck the whole time. He scored the hill because you score at the end of the round. He scored the hill at the end of the first round. Then I was able to pick up 2 scores, which would put me at 8 points total and him at 4. And then this is where my mistake comes in. Okay, so it was the last round. The hill spawned in my left-hand corner. I had captured it, planted the flag, because it's a free action. You plant the flag in King of the Hill to, take the hill. And I did a stupid thing where, because I had 3 models, I could skip an activation because he had 4 models. He was playing Spartans, by the way. And for some reason, I skipped my activation even though I didn't have any units in the hill. And I planted my flag, so I was going to score. I skipped my activation, and then he spawned right next to it, went in, and then took it. And then I tried to knock him out of it because you can't plant the flag if the enemy is in that hill. So I spawned, tried to knock him out of it. I failed to knock him out of it. I shook his hand right there and said, "Good game, we tied." So, yeah, kind of crazy. And he even asked me, did I want to take that back, skipping my turn? And I told him, no, I made that mistake. I should really learn for it. But unfortunately, that mistake is what cost me the podium of 3rd place. But overall, it was a great game. I love tying, to be honest, because it shows that we're very evenly matched as opponents. But because of that, I was 2 points away from getting 3rd place. With my achievements counted up and everything, I only needed 2 more to get 3rd place. Either way, it was a ton of fun. People got tons of prizes. I had so much fun. The Truth and Reconciliation podcast boys were awesome. We had a ton of fun this weekend. Stay tuned for a future map that I'm working on. Sorry I'm cutting this short, but I got to go work on it basically. So thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.